So hi everybody and welcome back. This is a video about these days I'm little turning in circles, because I have to leave my Sweden. You know how much I love the Nordic guys know me and they know how much I love Sweden, and I have to return in Italy. So I'm a little in depression right now because I like so much to be here even more in the summertime. So I'm just making some models that keep my mind free, and so I decided to build up this extravagant, something different, very different. I started time ago the body and the conversion to do the Porsche Safari 78 with the Martini livery. Then I crossed the, wanted to move the Golf Porsche. That will be the object of another video, of the next one. So I started time ago, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago. I also placed my picture in my social media, and I started to do the Porsche Safari 78 because I had the opportunity to cross a decal sheet from Studio 27 making the Martini livery. So I started the modification. We are talking of no, probably even more than 5 years. I guess it can be nearly 10 years right now. And the situation was that I had that model there, as you see. Now the box, because the box art, it was pretty cool. Taken from the S of the 934, was quite nice, this draw. This is the box, the rebox from Heller about the ENG Porsche 934. As you can see also in the picture, the design is whatever, they nearly made the 934, but they really don't look like a real 934. It's okay for a box art of the 80s, so it's okay. And the model inside was with the blue plastics. It was the ordinary ENG 934 Porsche. It was not at all a bad model. In my opinion, it is still today, despite with 934 we had the rival kit, and even nicer the Tamiya kit, at a very affordable prices. So, they made both excellent models, but they arrive on the market, I think 4 or 5 years ago now. And back in time for the 934, you just had to take the ENG kit that have been reboxed as we seen by Heller. So I started to work to build up the 934, to convert the 934 into an SC rally version, and of course there was nothing, I think today there is a racing model by my build, not only build but also produced, the master, produced for Arena Modelli by my big friend Luca Cavicchi, incredible master maker. He likes so much and he knows so much about those Porsches, and he made the master for them about the Safari 78, the correct Safari 78, so with the proper decals and so on. My disappointment was when I made a big, it was at the time, I remember, a huge conversion, because you have basically to remove completely the fenders, take it away the fenders from a 934. The 934 is that body, so you can see how different they look, how different they are also in the, never mind if one is the production from Revel, so of course it's more accurate than the ENG. But the ENG shape was absolutely not bad at all. As you can see, this is the difference. You can look, for example, the rear part, that is still the body of the Safari 78. That is the correct body for 934. So you see the amount of conversion, and the same for the front wheel arch. Everything have to be modified to become taller like the Safari 78 was. And I remember that at the time was still the beginning, and there was still nothing around to make a proper conversion, mostly about also for the wheels and the rims, for the correct Safari version. So the pattern was different and so on. So I started to look a little the pictures around, the original pictures. Don't know if it was a car driven by, what was, Valdegard, maybe Bjorn Valdegard, I don't know, don't remember honestly. And I made all this huge conversion, so basically the model itself was a Safari 78. Then of course also the rims was coming anyway from the ENG production, so you see that it is anyway a Fuchs rim, but not so detailed like they could be, for example, in Tamiya models. So the channel was a little messed up, typical from the most of ENG. So that is a detail that in a modern model with the modern standard you absolutely have to upgrade. And I crossed by, and I discovered that, for example, the tire that I used here, even for the Safari 78, all the car is basically Safari 78, was extremely similar to another production that was made by ENG at the time. It was the Range Rover. I was lucky to discover that the Range Rover also, I think also together with this 934, they have been taken like modern mold and repurposed by Italeri with a different box out, but basically the plastic inside is the same, you know. The all the box from Asia of the Range Rover, they just made the civilian in bracket version, the ordinary street version of the Range Rover was extremely rare box, you know, so it is very tricky to find, so it's a shame to dismantle a box just to have the tire. Instead, I ordered them from Italeri when they reissue the model, because the Italeri have the service that for I think $10, something like that. They can provide 10 or 15 euros, something like that. They provide you just the part that you need, so I order from them the tires, you know, because if I had the proper rubber tire, they are in rubber, and they are modern rubber, so I hope that they last more than the original rubbers from Asia. That was a critical point, you know. Anyway, Italeri works with recycled plastic, but with a modern standard, so it is stuff that is made in those years, so it's stuff that should last better than the stuff made in the 70s, I hope, you know. And despite they are also painted, usually these real rubber wire tires are very sensitive to what you use like products to paint, you know. I basically work with Tamiya paint, with Gunze paint, with life color, so everything is acrylic, and I usually avoid to apply over the rubbers the gloss that make the body so shiny. So both the 2K, both the GX100, you know, all the aggressive stuff, and you know, so they should last, you know, because sometimes they become very dry and they cut themselves after you use quite aggressive products over the rubber, you know. And so everything went well, including, I remember back in time also, this was extremely rare to find the ducktail. I think that was a copy from Scale Production, I think, that I had in another box by a friend. Robbie Jacobona provided me that, I remember. And ciao Robbie, if you're looking this video, you know. And so I finally had all the parts, all the main parts, you know, to feature a real Safari car, because I really like the Safari version. But then, you know, also Luca Cavecchi, that good friend, you know, when friends make a constructive constructive criticism, I like it a lot. And he said that in his opinion the wheels were anyway looking too big, so all the car looked a little too much like a Bigfoot, despite in many pictures you can find this Safari really looking this way, you know. But I think it may also depend from race to race. For example, if you look at the picture of the original 78 Safari saved in the Porsche museum, it is much smaller in the wheels. They surely changed the wheels and the tires for the display inside the museum, you know. And then I also made at the time the mistake to cross a kind of replicas of the time. They were incredibly nice, so they made this car also with the three-tone metallic gray Martini livery over a replica car with Bigfoot wheels. So it was extremely aggressive and extremely nice. I wanted anyway to try to do the Safari version, but what was definitely badly disappointing was the design. And this is quite famous. I found in automotive forum many guys that made the same mistake like I did, and many review of people that try to do the same stuff, and it is nearly impossible to do that with the Studio 27 decal sheet. So probably that was the reason why I find it quite easy back in time, the decal sheet, brand new condition, you know, decent quality, you know. It was not at all a stunning quality. They were printed by Umi decals, you know. There have been a time where also the Studio 27 were printed by Umi decal, but the point was that they fit extremely bad on the body of an ordinary 934. I think they were designed probably over Fujimi bodies and so on, because all the bands, you know, not about the quality of the printing, I mean the quality of the design. Who designed the decal made a terrible work at the time. Probably, nearly surely, they made over absolutely different body. I think something in a smaller scale, because all the Martini livery was not fitting. So if you see the Martini livery for the Safari, they have all these stripes running around the body, but they were not fitting. So something that started here finished in a different point compared to the picture of the real car. So it was extremely hard to try to make the decal fit over the body. I tried to do my best at the time, but then anyway I get disappointed, because you see that there was some point where it have to be retouched, where it have to be fixed, and probably also the body itself was, you know, coming from a 934, so much wider than an ordinary SC, was not matching anyway to the deck, so I was unsatisfied. That's why at the time I took the model that was half complete, you know, because all the lower chassis with white wheels and all the interiors was already done and prepared. I placed it in a box and forget for many years. And right now, like I told you, thinking to move from my Sweden and go in the 40 degrees of Italy right now. That really kills me, just the idea. I wanted to do something that simply made me happy and make my days a little little more extravagant, something different, So I took that body that I made and I wanted to convert into something that was a little bit, because the car is anyway, I think, extremely cool. The look of the Safari is an extremely nice and aggressive Porsche. So it's also very, very different to see. Don't look at my background, there is always my guys there, the Esagama and the Fiat Buffo. So this is my desk right now. And so I wanted to save anyway this body. Didn't want absolutely to trash it, and I wanted to plan something different. So it happens that when I was preparing that body, I crossed it to the Gulf color that was extremely similar, I think, to the color RLM 76 used by Messerschmitt. The Porsche have a double layer and a different base, so that's why all the model result much more deeper like color, but the original color that I used was that shade, and it is basically this color from Gunzen. This is for me the best to obtain the Gulf livery, So is the H45 light blue of the Aquos hobby color brand. You see, I also placed it Gulf because for me it's the best option. You have to make other GT40s, other car with the Gulf livery, so I think that is the best, in my opinion, to do that. And the original, as I say, that is a little bit treated, a little bit with a darker surface under. Instead, the original color, like you can see, is that one, so it matches incredibly good to the Gulf color. But in the military range, there was this range named the RLM. RLM was the color used by the Luftwaffe during the Second World War. It was a kind of Pantone scala, to have an idea, for colors and so on. And I discovered a quite cool livery around that was used over the Messerschmitt BF-109, the tropical version. It was the fighter planes used by the Luftwaffe during the Second World War in the North African scenery, and they had this BF-109 that was the flagship of the German Air Force. Despite when you cross these fields about war and so on, it's a little bit tricky every time. So I really didn't want to have the model with the original German Iron Cross from Second World War, and I crossed the spare decal sheet that I had from a previous build, that was the Fokker DR1 made by that famous company, by the guy from the Lord of the Ring. Was that help me, not Classic, what the fuck was the name of that? The box down there. It was anyway muffled for Richthofen planes, the Red Baron. And they had an extra sheet inside, so I had some leftover of the Iron Cross coming from the First World War, so not so involved to the Nazi situation of the Second World War, because I honestly don't like it so much. So I tried to copy the scheme from the BF-109, with the scheme of the sand. It's basically that three colors, you see. Of course, you have the freedom to make as you want, because this is anyway a fantasy car, something that never existed, but the idea is cool. Also the idea to divide the splitter of the camouflage, to have a little, it was the lower part of the BF-109, it was always painted in the 76 RLM. Despite the nose was in a special yellow named RLM04, it was a very deep yellow that Luftwaffe used. Usually it was because in the scenery of Africa the real planes had the problem with the anti-aircraft guns to be recognized by their own, so the Germans simply made something easy, painting the yellow front part of the nose of the plane that way. So I retake this way, so you see that it's not a British car, this is a real Porsche, have to be a German car, despite, as I said, completely fantasy stuff. Plus I had an extra row of front light that a very kindly a guy from Automotive Forum sent me, made in resin, I think it's coming from the Lancia Stratos, and he sent me a couple of them. So one I kept for the real purpose that he gave me, and the second one I used it for this one. This was a test, probably in resin, because it was a little handmade, so you see that there was some imperfection. Anyway, a great gift that I get from him, so still thank you, man. And then I had some extra decal. My idea, I didn't want to place. It was that anyway during the Second World War, all the German planes had the swastika on the tail over a squared spot over the tail. If you spot a picture of the profile of the BF-109 Tropical, you see that they have the swastika on the tail, and there is a swastika on my models. I absolutely don't like the symbol, so I didn't want to place it and leave it blank like it is. The car is a fantasy car, so I can do absolutely what I want over this model. I wanted also to explore the line to do kind of Singer rear lights. I didn't have any longer the spare parts for this original Yeshi model, and it was a special shape because it was completely off compared to the other that you can have there, so the model was a little bit different. So I created them by myself. I scratch built the rear light with the rear spot, orange and red, and plus the central part that was still coming from an original part from spare part from Porsche. You have a full box full of parts from the 911s, and that's it. Then I added the front the front roll cage and the upper stuff. I think it's extremely cool. It is one of my coolest fantasy idea, just to fill up my time here and to have something that I could see, and to make it in a military way. Then of course the model was completely gloss when I painted it, because the nice of the Gunzi acrylics is that they start semi-gloss in a way that they made much more easy the decal applying when you finish your model. But being this a kind of military Luftwaffe Porsche, I wanted to make it completely flat, so I used the flatting from I use usually that one for this kind of model. They are very good. It is the products made by Winsor & Newton, so they are absolutely very, very good quality. And I finish it in this way. I also took the idea of the extra external light on the right side of the car, even coming from the Porsche 78. So all the parts were coming to finish it like a proper Porsche 911 Safari, and then it switched to this version, so it is a Luftwaffe Safari. So it's just a fantasy. It's just a fantasy. So that's it. I repainted even in the RLM 02, so the interior parts have been painted in a different color to match the color that was used in the cockpit of the German planes from the Luftwaffe, as well as the dashboard that usually is constantly black plastic, black vinyl in ordinary Porsches 911. I painted like if there is a covering to protect from heating, some ideas coming. I love to build up planes. If you follow my page, you see what I build it up. I love planes, I love cars, also military vehicle, but mostly planes and cars. And that's it. So I think the overall look is something funny, something that you don't see so often, and it was a decent way to save a body coming from the Safari car that I absolutely didn't want to trash. The Porsche writings there on the back, the original Porsche would have the red spot, the red rear light plus the black writing Porsche. Instead, this I use the opposite, because they are coming from I think the decal sheet from the 997 GT3 from Fujimi, that they display the decal of the presentation car, so they fits perfectly, because it's a nice difference between what you have in the real car and what you have in the Model E. So I like it a lot. Retakes also the writing big Porsche that also was taken by that in the turbo version. That will be the next video I will prepare soon. So that's it. So this is what I called my Porsche BF-109/11 911 Porsche Tropical version in 1/24 scale. That's it. I hope you like it, guys. There is also metal protection that I made in a photo etch said, down here to protect the radiators and protect the lower suspension of the car. Also, this is copied by the Safari that I was going to finish and I never did. And that's it. Hope you like it, guys. Really hope you like it. See you in the next.